Zomato launched a pure veg fleet with distinct green color yesterday that would deliver orders from restaurants that do not serve meat, fish or egg-based dishes. Now, Pure Veg mode was launched to solve users' dietary preferences. However, the fleet's persons were shown promoting images wearing green uniform and with green boxes on their bikes. And the company said it will not assign Pure Veg delivery partners to any order from any restaurant where food is not exclusively vegetarian. That was as of yesterday. As of this morning, less than 24 hours later, after social media backlash from app-based workers, unions, activists, academics as well as netizens who argued that the move will result in harassment of non-vegetarian eaters as well as violence against ground-level delivery partners in India, founder Dipinder Goyal has rolled back the ground segregation based on uniform. Now, Goyal said that they are going to continue to have a fleet of vegetarian, but decided to remove the on-ground segregation of fleet on the basis of the color green. Therefore, all rides, both regular as well as vegetarian fleet, will wear the color red, which means that the fleet meant for vegetarian orders will not be identified on the ground. This will ensure that red uniform delivery partners are not incorrectly associated with non-veg food and are not blocked by RWAs as well as societies. What does this backlash mean and what impact will it have on Zomato? To talk about that, joining us on the show is Dilip Cherian. He's an image guru. Dilip, thank you very much for taking time out. Good to have you on the show. I think the big question that one would be wondering is, first you roll out a policy, then you come across the backlash. What sort of dampening of image, or what sort of dent will it cause on Zomato's image post this move?
I think that as far as the move is concerned, there is no doubt that the first move was clearly something to do with driving market share. And the second move, the rollback, has as much to do with societal pressure as it is to do with Zomato recognizing that it owns the color red and does not want to try and dilute that. So I think there are two elements to the rollback, and the roll out is essentially grabbing a larger slice of the market share that it can, because of people who want to order from a vegetarian restaurant and make sure their food comes without it being potentially contaminated by non-veg.
Right.
But on the brand side, I think the concern by netizens, by the riders and by delivery partners is one thing. But I think the second most important thing is that he recognized that they would be ceding space as a brand because they own a certain color space, which is important.
All right, interesting perspective. My colleague Krishna Kumar is also with me. He is a vegetarian. I am a non-vegetarian. We have variety here on the show. But Krishna, come to think of it, interesting move. A lot of people were also praising it when it first happened yesterday. Good that we know who is going to serve our food, and good that we also know that they're not going to handle non-vegetarian food. But Zomato was quick to realize it's not that easy. It's a very complex, volatile country, and you can't just simply distinguish between vegetarians and non-vegetarians. It's going to have a social havoc and perhaps will also, as I mentioned, dent Zomato's image to some extent.
Absolutely. And from identifying which rider is serving which food, the question went back to then the person getting the delivery will get identified as so-and-so ordered non-vegetarian food. So that's the reason why the delivery boy came in red and so-and-so ordered non-vegetarian food. Look, the fact of the matter is that vegetarian food is big business in India. It is the reason why you have all these Udupi restaurants, all those people from Udupi, who, from the town of Udupi in Karnataka, who went up to set up Udupi restaurants across the country, from Mumbai to Delhi to everywhere. They branded themselves as pure veg, because pure vegetarian food has a big market in India, because even the meat-eating people in India, they have their fasts and their vrats days in a week where they go absolutely clean and pure veg, and they would pay premium to go to a restaurant where there's no contamination. The utensils are used only to make vegetarian food, and pay a premium for it. So clearly, this is not a new business model. From the looks of it, Mr. Dipinder Goyal was going back to an old business model that used to exist in this country for a very, very long time. But yes, delivery boys in different colors was definitely something that wasn't working.
Absolutely. It wasn't working, and hence the rollback within less than 24 hours. Dilip, I think this begs the question, as far as social ramifications is concerned, you do not want to be identified somebody who orders non-vegetarian food, especially when you know that people around you may not be very sensitive to it. From a brand's perspective, now Zomato spent, my understanding is that may have spent substantially on that marketing, on that rolling out of green costume, then rollback of that green costume by the way of value and the image that Zomato has, and it's a valued brand for all those people who eat in, who would like their food to be delivered at home. Will this have any long-term repercussions?
I think the long-term repercussions are going to be positive. Dipinder Goyal has been at the receiving end of all kinds of such, I would call, Indian nuances, societal nuances about the delivery boy being of a certain community, etc. Can you imagine if this were to also start becoming a caste issue? So I think Dipinder Goyal has recognized that he has one brand, he needs to defend it. I agree that the vegetarian market is a substantial market and therefore he needs to go after it. But the practical truth, I've handled about at least about 2,000-3,000 brands, and I know that the moment brand dilution happens, consciously, unconsciously, or deliberately, then there is the danger that you are threatening what actually gives you the revenue, the confidence, and the customer being able to recognize that this is what I'm ordering from.
Right. Just one quick question. There are many on social media who are tweeting out, and we're putting out on Facebook and other social media platforms that, like, with all this distinction between veg delivery and non-veg delivery, I'm done with Zomato being sort of discriminatory against non-meat eating people. I would even uninstall the Zomato app. Are you looking at any kind of backlash from meat eating consumers against Zomato?
As somebody who has advised multiple brands when they've faced such social media dilemmas, the important thing that Dipinder Goyal is probably doing with his marketing team at the moment is figuring out how many of these backlashers, as it were, have an impact on his core audience. And very often, whether it's a jewelry brand, whether it's a jeans brand, many of these backlash responses by companies nervous about the backlash has been because they've not been equipped to do customer listening and understanding where is it originating from. And I think Dipinder Goyal, having been bitten by this more than once, has now figured out that listening to the customers who matter is what matters.
Dilip, does this serve as a case study perhaps for all brands to follow? Listen into what your customers want, get their opinion before you actually roll out a plan or a service of this nature. Get stakeholders, perhaps do a proper case study, understand whether it will be suitable to your audience, to your customer. Before you actually spend that marketing money, you spend that role in that rollout process. So before you move the ball, get people's opinion.
In the ideal world, yes. In the world of speed and high intensity movement, very often companies do what is called a micro rollout and then do a very quick mega rollback. And I think that unfortunately, the nature of the market and the way people try to move with speed. Now, this, for example, had no obvious reason to do this. Some smart aleck came up with the idea, not enough testing was done, and testing is a science. When we talk of communications, and when I work with clients, I always tell them that it's not about just putting together a group and testing it among them. You really have to go into deep sociological understanding and spend time. There are no shortcuts in this process. You do something, test it, and don't let people understand it till you're ready to roll out.
All right, before you do something, test it. Perhaps that's the word of wisdom coming in from Dilip Cherian, sir. Thank you very much for taking time out. Thank you for speaking to News9. It is a case in point where Dipinder Goyal was fast to roll out a new service for vegetarian food eaters, and that differentiation perhaps did not go down very well with a lot of people on social media. He was also quick to roll it back. Whether it's going to have some long-term repercussion on the brand, well, Dilip Cherian believes that they will have to, of course, wait and watch out for. If anything, Dipinder Goyal will earn people's respect for perhaps listening to them within a span of 24 hours. We'll keep tracking all those details on that story.